and welcome to this episode of Making It in Asheville. Each week we sit down with a local Asheville artist, entrepreneur, creator, maker. This week we're sitting down with Opie Way and their two founders, Justin and Amanda. And Opie Way is, I will do my best here and then I'll hand it to you guys. They make shoes right down the street from Asheville. And
really cool sneaker
and it's nuts,
shoes.
And they're beautiful and they're handmade. And so couldn't even guess. I imagine there involves some sort of leather and rubber and stitching. But we're going to try and figure out how do you get started making shoes in America and what that whole process has looked like. So please tell us a little bit about Opie Way, and we'll unpack it over the next little while.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty spot on description. But Opie Way, you know, we're manufacturing and selling shoes right here in Asheville, North Carolina. We're hand making them and stitching them every single day. And I think at the end of the day, like our goal is to really just, even on a small scale, change the way that people think about and consume footwear here in America.
And where did the name Opie come from? Because it's an odd name, and I think that's kind of like the first thing that I recognized was like, okay, what does this company do? Before I saw like actual pictures of what you do, what does Opie mean?
Well, we had a really hard time coming up with the name just because everything felt so boring or like sounded like just another, footwear company. So we were trying to think of something that was meaningful, like that would, we could broaden a little bit if we needed to. Anyways, we have two daughters. Their names are Ophelia and Wayland. And so Opie and Way are their nicknames. And we put it together and we just kind of liked it. And
Yeah. And it was a little bit weird. So like we kind of appreciated that too.
Yeah. I love it. I think that is...
Well, and it's just funny because I'm thinking about like all the famous shoe companies like Nike and Adidas and I don't.
Are you talking about? Forget it. Stop there. Nike. And
yeah,
Adidas,
like those are like not real things. So I love that you guys sort of followed in that. I don't want to call it tradition, but the non-traditional naming process.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it can be eventually, I mean, to your point, it is open-ended. So it can be the Opie way is to make things with the highest quality by hand in North Carolina. So I love it for a number of reasons. And I guess the next question, are you from a long line of shoemakers? The word I know is cobblers, but I don't think that's the right term in this instance. But like, are you the children of cobblers?
Yeah, no, we're not children of cobblers. I think it really is like due to way too much passion for sneakers from me and probably like way too much trust and belief that Amanda has for it as well. And that, kind of catapulted us to where we are. And, so no, just everything's self-taught here when it comes to shoes.
I find that really interesting, and I think that's an interesting question because I'm reminded of Tony and I both spent a lot of time in Italy. It's where we met, and we lived in Florence for a little bit, and they make a lot of leather products, and in particular, I think Italians are kind of known for like their shoes and having this old world tradition of like passing down to your sons, right? Like the shoe business and keeping it going.
Rotation.
Yes. Yeah. But that's like not at all what you guys are doing. And I find that absolutely fascinating.
We kind of wish that we had but no.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, it could be something in your family later on. Like maybe you pass it down to your kids if you want to do it. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's our hope.
And so, I mean, I'm going to say in a past life, I cared a whole lot about clothes and fashion. Mm-hmm. I would not say I was ever a sneakerhead, but I was into American-made like boots. I was into like dress shoes, and I've watched a lot of videos of people making, slightly more. I would say, not sneakers. I've never seen anybody make a set of sneakers or casual shoe, but I've watched cobblers make, like a beautiful, even Alan Edmonds dress shoe or Red
Yeah.
Wing. Like I've watched videos of like Red Wing boots get made, or things like it. Wolverines. So I'm wondering, it's one thing to say, in the early '90s, I loved buying Nikes or Jordans, and like, did you watch YouTube videos? Like, how did you make your first sneaker?
Oh man, that's like a really, really
Take
long
your time.
story. Probably like, took so long for this to like become an actual thing. But like when I was a kid, I was very much like what you just talked about in the 90s. Like shoes were my life. I was the kid that like my mom would get me shoes on Christmas, and like that night I would like sleep with them on my pillow. I had this weird fascination of what
Yeah.
shoes were, sneakers specifically. And then, I think if you would have asked me when I was in middle school, like, what are you going to do one day? It was like, I'm going to design shoes for Nike. Like, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Um, and so, like, I followed that. Amanda and I met when we were 15 years old. So,
Wow.
like, she can attest to, like, she thought I was crazy, I think, a bunch, buying all of these shoes and just reading sneaker blogs. And I was so into it. And so when I went to college just to do that. I was going to design sneakers for a bigger company. But while I was in college, I got this like weird tug on my heart. Like once I got into the industrial design program and I got a mentor who was a sneaker designer in college. It was amazing. Then I don't know. It was like, man, this is actually like a little bit dirty. Like how shoes are made on a huge scale and like where they're made. And I don't know. It was just like a transition where I was like, I don't think this is what I want to be a part of. Like it's too removed from appreciating the design and like where that shoe came from. And so I was just like, I'm going to go another route. And I went into the marketing world for a while. Amanda and I were living in Charlotte, and I was like, you know what? Like, if I'm not going to design shoes, I'm going to at least like make my own shoes. I just want to make what I
Like
want,
I can imagine making a moccasin, right? Like I've also watched people make moccasins online, but like it's a
Yeah.
fundamentally different thing when you're like, okay, so how did you do that? I'm so interested.
I, yeah, I don't know. It's like, uh, for me, it was like, I know exactly what I want in a shoe, and like, I'm going to figure out how to make it. So I decided, you asked about a term earlier. A lot of people use the term cobbler. But a cobbler is really somebody who like fixes shoes. If you have a nice pair of boots or dress shoes and you want them to be resold, or you have to repair a rip in them or something, you take them to a cobbler. And they do amazing. Cobblers are amazing. There's another term though that is called cordwainer, and a cordwainer is somebody who builds shoes from the ground up. Like they just create and make shoes. So I decided I was going to try to teach myself how to become a cordwainer for
And
myself.
did you ever make
And so,
shoes I'm sorry, in your industrial design program? Did you?
no, and I think that's probably the bummer of the whole thing. Like I was going to design shoes and not one time did I even like play with material. Like it was just wasn't something that was, I don't know, it wasn't in the curriculum. So when you design sneakers, you're like so removed from the actual process of the shoe. And I wanted it
Yeah.
all. Like I wanted to be a part of all of it, I think. Um, and so we both have full-time jobs. I want to build my own shoes. And so I tell Amanda, like, I'm going to buy these vintage machines I found, like 2 hours away. And so I packed up the truck and brought home these two old machines and sat them in a basement. And I just was trying to learn how to build shoes. And that was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of me trying to do
And
that.
when was this? Like,
And
was
then,
this in the age of YouTube where you could watch videos and learn how to do it?
yeah, for sure. There's just not, like you can try to YouTube now and you're not really going to find videos of people like actually making shoes. There are a lot of guys that are doing like custom shoes, and you can take classes.
It seems to be like an aftermarket,
You know,
like paint shoes seems to be like there's a real kind of
yeah,
industry in that. And I'm imagining that you found these sewing machines on just eBay.
yeah, Craigslist actually, yeah.
Craigslist.
And so I knew nothing, which is it's so funny to like think about that now, just thinking like I can jump into this and do it, like I've got it, and then it's just the teaching aspect of it. It's been such a long road.
Yeah. And Amanda, I mean, what were like when Tony starts taking on a new sort of project, my mind is kind of like, okay, I wonder where this is lead. But like, I'm glad that he's working on something. This is exciting. But like, what were you thinking at this time? Like, he just brought these huge machines home, and
we had, I think you got them like when our daughter was really little, like just a few months old probably. And so I was like in bliss with my newborn, and like, it was fine. Like I definitely thought he was a little crazy. I'm like, you're going to go spend like all this money that you've saved and buy these random old machines. So I didn't really get it. And like, I wasn't super, like involved at that point or interested, but I was like, if you want to learn, like go for it, and he's always been so just obsessed with shoes. So I'm like, this can be another outlet for you, like something creative. And, his job at the time, like wasn't creative at all. I was just like computer work. So I was excited for him to try it, but I definitely didn't imagine that it would go anywhere.
Yeah.
And wow. So you get these machines. I imagine you buy some scrap leathers, and now it's a matter of like, do you just like find are you ripping the top off of vans and like putting stuff onto vans or something?
Yeah, like that's definitely where it starts. And then, it's just like small building blocks, like very small building blocks after that. So I was doing just that, like ripping shoes apart, trying to like Frankenstein them back together. And then you realize like, oh, you can buy soles that are already made, and I could probably find like, better leather. And so you just take small steps at a time. And so it was, I'm like thinking about Amanda's like trust in me, but she like, had to have thought like, what in the hell is this guy doing? But yeah, like very small building blocks.
Absolutely fascinating. So your early days, you make your first finished shoe, and is it like immediately, I could do this better, let me start over? Or were you, like, aha, we're going into business, let's go. Like, what was the feeling after that first shoe?
I was so stoked with my first shoe. It's funny, we still have it at the factory, and we laugh about it sometimes, but I was like amazed, like, oh my God, I made this shoe, and like I want to wear it around everywhere. And Amanda was like so nice, like, yeah, this is great. And we had some neighbors over one night, and I'm like bringing these shoes out to say like, this is my first pair of shoes, like check it out. And our neighbor picks it up, and he's like, oh man, this is nice. It's almost like an ankle weight. Amanda like lost it. And that's when I was like, okay, we've got to get better at this.
What was it made of? Why was it so heavy?
It was like this really thick, it was like elk hide, and
what?
It was like way too thick, and I don't know, everything was like this really heavy leather. It was just, it wasn't good.
And he wears like a size 14 or 15, so it's like really big.
Yeah, we like I don't know. I guess Instagram, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. On some of the photos that I've just finally seen of you guys like standing, Justin, you look really tall. Like how tall are you?
Yeah, I'm like 6'6".
Cool.
Yeah.
And so was that? I mean, sneaker culture you either, I think, were in it or you weren't. Was like everyone around you into sneakers? Was your group of friends a bunch of like sneakerheads? Were you in buying and selling? Do you have wrapped Jordans? Like what level of sneakerhead youth were you?
I was in deep. I feel like I came up in this era like before the sneaker market is what it is right now. So I I could still go to the store 2 months after a shoe released, and save up my money for 2 months and get them. And now you can't do that. So I would I would buy them and keep them so clean. There was definitely no reselling until I got into college. I paid a lot of bills like reselling shoes through college for
Did you
sure.
ever, was East Bay magazine a thing for you? So I remember East Bay,
Yeah, yeah.
like when it would show up, I'd freak out and I'd look at all the stuff and I would say, oh my God, these sneakers or these cleats. I was really into cleats because like football and lacrosse and stuff. But so I'd look at these cleats and I'd go, oh my God, and they're on sale. And then it would be like size 14, 15 is on sale, or regular human shoes are full price. And I was like, oh man, what I would give to be a size 14. Everything's on sale. You just wait a little while. Did you find that to be true,
Yeah.
or were you too early in the market on some shoes?
I think it was like from my perspective of being that big shoe size, it was like flipped, because if you were a size 9, you're gonna get like the store is gonna get
There you
8,
go.
10 pairs. If you're a size 14 and 15, they're gonna get your one per store. So I felt like if I was trying to compete with anybody to get a pair of
You had to be there
shoes,
right away.
you know, I had to like grab my
And I
one
guess
pair.
that's the
So
difference. East Bay was like really early on either internet
Yeah.
buying or I remember we used to you would call because it was a magazine and you'd
Right.
phone
Yeah.
a number. So interesting. And East Bay would have, I guess, more of the, outlier sizes than your traditional brick and mortar in a small town that wouldn't roll the dice on 3 14s. Unless they know that you're in town and he always buys Jordans.
Yeah, I think, it's really interesting that I feel like a lot of people had this really cool experience with shoes throughout their life, and you might have not realized that it was a cool experience. I always find that really interesting that shoes are like a part of your life, but some people really, really pick up on it and hone in on it. I don't know. It's cool to hear your East Bay
Absolutely.
experience.
I would never identify myself as a sneakerhead, but I was always paying attention to other people's just look. So sneakers are a
Yeah.
huge part of a look to me, and I guess that's why I'm very excited about this episode, because the look of Opie Way is so clean and universal and timeless that I think that you're really onto something right now, and I'm excited to champion it and hear more about it. So thank you for taking that wild hair with me down at East Bay. And the last thing on East Bay is that my understanding of East Bay is that it was a husband and wife owned a company. She took eBay, which was the online platform for selling products, and he took East Bay and went all in on sports. And I think eBay clearly was the better. I think that they're both the same
Wow.
business. Initially, they were the same business.
Wow. That's crazy.
eBay won
Yeah.
that fight
You
for
can fact
sure.
check me, but I
Yeah,
believe
well,
it.
we'll do some fact checking after this, but I mean that makes sense from the name that you were saying. But no, I think it's really
Yeah.
fascinating. I've never thought about the fact what you just said, Justin, about how everyone has an interaction with shoes. But I'm also thinking about how important shoes are to just our everyday life, and we don't even realize it. We are in them most of the day. Maybe not with the pandemic.
Yeah.
People might be at home in their socks, but we're in them most of the day. They literally support the rest of your body. And like Tony said,
Yeah.
they're a major sort of fashion point that I don't think we all pick up on. I had to pause and sort of say that because I think that they're It's not like a scarf or an earring, right? That's like an accessory to your, or even a hat. It's so functional.
Yeah, and depending on who you are, it could be like one of my favorite fashion concepts is the idea of having like dressing like a cartoon and having just a look. Like a cartoon character has a look, and if you can live into that, then that means that you have like a sneaker that is your sneaker. And clearly most people who are into fashion will have like a ton of different versions of the same thing, and or variations in 5 different awesome American-made work boots. But also, you could just have one, and that would be great.
Yeah.
Justin, you let's go back to the story. You made your first shoe, which I'm very curious, and I would love to see a picture of that. I don't know if it's findable on the internet or if you can send one.
It's not findable.
It's in their workshop.
And
you said it's in the workshop, right? I imagine it's in some sort of glass enclosure to be always
hide it for when we want to pull it out and have a laugh. So it's not showcased.
Okay, well, maybe we'll get a picture and we can put that on our show notes page, just for curious fans.
Everyone starts somewhere is going to be the hashtag.
Yeah. Okay, so but you made your first shoe, and then I'm sure you made more after that. But tell us a little bit more about how you transitioned into realizing that you wanted to make this into a business.
Yeah. So I think, I was making that shoe, and from the time that I got like our first vintage shoe machines, like 4 or 5 years was going on.
We had another baby. We moved back to Asheville. So like he was interrupted a lot. It wasn't like, he got to devote a whole lot of time to it because our lives were really busy.
Yeah. But one thing I did dive into was I was trying to find other people that were trying to do the same thing. I was trying to look up any video I could about shoe design, and then literally like any contact I would grab, I would get their information and just try to connect. And I met a guy who was in the industry who was trying to make some shoes in the US, but he was going about it like with customs. So he would make like custom Nikes and Jordans. But he was based in Los Angeles, and he somehow could find these machines, and he had like a factory already set up for shoes. And we had talked for quite some time back and forth, and he reached out one day and was like, hey, I need to unload these machines. We're moving into a different direction. I don't want to let the big companies know because they'll come snatch these machines like quick. I want to pass it on to somebody who's really going to try to use them. Like, do you want the machines? And I'm like, yeah, I want them for sure, but I don't have the money.
Body sweat.
So it was like a 6-month conversation of, okay, is it feasible to buy machines to make shoes? Is it a business we could even do? And I don't know, like 6 months, every single night, that was the conversation I think we were having, was like, is this a thing? And we had pretty much said, like, there's no way we can get the money. It's not going to happen. But one morning I woke up, I had to travel for like 4 hours that day. And I was like, just call people you know and tell them your situation. And if nothing's going to come of it, like, just let it be after this day. And by the end of that day, we had already found, somebody that would help us out to make that first machine acquisition. So it was this amazing thing that happened so quick. And we were like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to buy these machines. We flew down with Amanda's grandpa and my dad, which was like, we should have taken a lot more pictures because it was like such a
moment.
Yeah. And it was such a funny moment, all of us going, but we grab these machines from LA and we get them shipped back here to a small factory space. And then it's like, okay, we have these machines, but we don't know what we're doing. We can't.
Well, and for context, sorry to interrupt you, but how big are these machines? Like, how much space and how much volume are we talking about?
like just industrial sewing machines. So they're on tables that are like 2x4, 3x5.
Yeah, 3x5 tables. So,
Okay.
you like walk into our factory, the most of the machines, it just looks like you're walking into, some like sewing manufacturing. Like,
I see. Okay.
there are a few though that are weird shaped and heavy, and so it took, our first batch of machines. It was like a full tractor trailer load of stuff.
Cool. Crazy.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And like, I remember the day we got the machines, it was such a big deal. And we were in this factory space. And then we had to take a step back and be like, okay, like literally we have these machines. We don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing, like to make these shoes or build these shoes. And it was, I don't know, it's kind of funny when I think about it now because we just like stepped into something full force with no real plan.
So for lack of trying to, I'm just hoping to peel some of these layers. So it's in the 6 months of saying we might buy these machines if the money fell into our laps, we do it. Or maybe that's not, if the money falls into our laps, would we do it? Like how, it's one thing to like want to do it. It's another thing, like, did you build spreadsheets where you're like, well, if we could make 10 shoes a month, we could, like, was there any kind of arithmetic that was happening in the background? Or was it just like, if we get the money, let's buy it and then figure it out?
Like, so the every night conversation was a lot about sitting down in front of a computer and trying to work it out in our head. Like,
cool.
Numbers. But the thing is, like, there's only so much you can do to predict if you know nothing about the manufacturing of shoes. So that was our problem. That's why it was so difficult, because it's like, I think this makes sense. And then it would be like, well, we don't know how much it is to buy, I don't know, soles or so it was like, it was a lot of work for something that we didn't really know anything about. And there wasn't really anybody we could ask the questions to. Most people just thought like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as all of a sudden, you make calls around the network, money shows up. Were there any lessons in fundraising that show up? Like, did you start like once someone said yes, did you like make a company to take the money as a company? You're just playing a little fast and loose, which is absolutely fine. I think it's fine for most people to play fast and loose. Just wondering practically, what was happening as it was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. LLC or throw it in the bank. Let's go to California. We're doing it.
We didn't even start our LLC for like a long time until someone was like, you can't do this until you have your LLC. And we were like, okay, we need to start the LLC finally. Like,
you can't buy wholesale products without an EIN or
something.
Yeah.
You have to have like a profile to even buy soles, like.
Yeah, we waited a while. Like we were deliberating about the name for so long, and then just trying to decide if we had totally just like ruined our lives by buying all these machines and not knowing how to use them. And so that was like a couple months of like, oh my God. But yeah, once we like learned how to make the shoes and we made our first pair and we were like, this is not that bad, on our machines, then we started the company officially. And
yeah. And Amanda, at one point did you start to get more involved in this? Because it in the beginning, it kind of seems like this is Justin's crazy. He's got these two machines. He's playing around. Like, how did you become more part of this dream too?
When he first told me about the machines, I thought it was totally out of the question. Like, there's no way that could ever happen. But I have always been into sewing, and like I've always been making stuff like since, I was in high school. So I just kind of like, when he was telling me more about it and like what the machines were, I got a little more excited because I'm like, well, I can sew, so like I could help, and that sounds really fun. And then I wasn't even going to go to LA to get the machines and like see them just because we had kids and plane tickets are expensive. But my mom was like, you gotta go. Like, if you guys are really gonna do this, like, he can't do it alone. Like, he's gonna need your support. And so I decided to go with him. And so then I felt super invested, and it really became more of like our thing. And especially once we got all the machines, like we didn't have any employees yet, so it was just us. So we really learned how to make the shoes together. Mm-hmm. And so then I was all the way in because I like learned how to do it, you know, from the ground up. And so, yeah, I just kind of snuck my way in.
Great. So let's date stamp it. When did the trailer with the equipment show up in North Carolina?
March 15th.
Yeah, of 2019.
Yeah.
Wowie. Cool. And so how many, approximately, maybe you know the exact answer, how many shoes have left your building since then?
That's a good question.
Or maybe been produced. Is it hundreds?
Yeah,
hundreds?
Just hundreds.
Hundreds.
Dozens?
Hundreds.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And to think that just a handful of years ago, you were making ankle weights that look like water shoes or something.
Yeah,
for sure. And like when the machines got there, it was like, okay, it took me 8, I don't know, maybe even 9 months literally to learn how to make the shoes and get them to scale and understand the process before we ever started the company really. So
right.
It was just like, I don't know. I think it was like when I'm hearing it is so crazy, but it just, I don't know. It just felt like our life. Like it just kind of happened. It's been kind of amazing.
And once stuff showed up from LA, were you 100% all in, Justin? And like this was your entire day? Were you making money elsewhere and making shoes at night for those 8 months? What was?
Yeah. I was, when we moved here, I had a marketing company. So I was already self-employed. In our factory, we have an office spot. So it was, 10, 12-hour days, just doing anything and everything I could throughout the day. It was probably like one of the hardest things I've ever done. Honestly.
What kind of marketing were? What kind of marketing were you doing?
We were doing web design, SEO, paid advertising.
Cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Your website's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We're not like, our standards are really high because we own a company. So we're always like, our site doesn't look good enough.
Yeah.
But
always changing.
Looks great.
Yeah, I think it looks great. And for being such a relatively young company, you can't tell, to me, like going to your site, I have the impression that you guys have been around for years.
Oh, nice.
So you guys are doing something right. For sure. Yeah. So tell us about your first sale and sort of what happened after that moment.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, we launched our site, our friends and family and everyone knew what we had been doing, and they were probably all like, is this ever gonna happen? And so it was November 1st. I think it was November 1st that we put our website live on the internet. And our neighbor bought the first pair that first day, and it was really sweet for her son. And so then no one else was really buying any, and we were like, okay, but we weren't marketing. We just had our Instagram, that was it. And so we had a market scheduled in Atlanta for the 11th and 12th. Mm-hmm. And so we went to that market, and then we got there, and it was all vintage Christmas decorations and pottery, and
we stuck out so bad.
We really stuck out. No one had anything like what we had. And so we were very scared that it wasn't going to go well. And we'd spent, a good bit of money, to pay for the market and, get a hotel and all that stuff. And so I was just if we can just make back the hotel and the market money, maybe that would be okay. But we sold a lot of shoes. People would just walk up and buy them, and we were totally shocked. And so that was our first, moment where we realized it was going to be okay.
And day one, what were the prices approximately of the early shoes?
268, I think, was the first.
Yeah.
And
260.
I'm saying that because perhaps a listener is, price anchored to the Skechers that they get at Walmart. Not a problem if that's what you're, used to buying, $39. But like, it's not made down the street, people. And so it's important that we know that it rounds to $300 most of the shoes that you've made.
Yeah.
And so it's not insignificant to me that people showed up, met you, said, I'm in.
I'll take them. Yeah.
Here's my money. That's a huge deal. It's a gigantic deal.
Yeah.
What market in Atlanta? I grew up outside of Atlanta.
Oh, it was, do you know Vintage Market Days? It's like a pop-up market that's all over the country. So it's not
cool. Not specific to Atlanta.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Well, that's awesome.
Huge milestone, huge mile marker. So you break even plus on this trip to Atlanta.
We did, yeah.
And then you come back like, Superman. What happens now? Are you like just making more shoes than ever? Are you trying to get wholesale? Are you saying wholesale's not right for us at this date? Like what's happening now that there's a little bit of validation?
Yeah, so we had a few more markets scheduled like for the rest of the year, and most of them were here. So really we were like just so overwhelmed trying to get enough product to take to the next market. And also like some of the sales in Atlanta, most of them were like, okay, I need this size, so you need to make it and send it to me. So and that's how our process usually works. Like we don't usually carry any stock. People order their size and then we make it and ship it to them. So
just pause on that real quick. Wait.
Yeah.
So you're getting like literally just made fresh sneakers when you order.
We try to send pictures and some emails through the process to let you know.
Oh, I'm so into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
cool. Sorry.
No, it's all good. We were just working on that and then getting ready for those other markets. And those went really well too. So like we were pretty busy all the way like through Christmas, which was good. Like, we felt like, okay, we're not crazy. Like it's gonna be okay. And we were meeting a lot of people, and that was like a fun time in the business.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, going back to the design for a moment, was there any customer feedback process, right? Like maybe you made a design and then you tweak some things based on what customers were saying, or how did you refine the design?
That was probably my biggest fear. And like starting to sell shoes was, oh my God, I don't know. Like we're going to start getting the emails that's like, we hate these shoes, or like they're ripping or something. And so I think I was too scared to really like reach out to anybody at first. So I'm like, I don't want any of that negative feedback. But then, we both just decided like, we have to just like reach out and see how things are doing. People spent really good money on these shoes, and like, we just need to confirm. And so and we still like do it today where we like reach out to everybody and ask them how it's gone. But the feedback has been like, this is a wood table, so I'm knocking on wood, but it's been like amazing. It's been such where I thought, we were going to have some negativity potentially. It's been so positive. So I don't know, the feedback has been amazing for us.
And I'll just say that doesn't surprise me, because things look beautiful. But I mean, that aside, right? So aesthetics aside, I tend to, a truism is that the more perceived value someone has at the buying, in the buying process, the more likely they'll be satisfied by the solution. And so that's in all things. That's in marketing. That's in selling widgets. That's in selling handmade sneakers. Like the more value that you're able to pack into the delivery, the more likely people are going to say, it's great. I mean, I love it. I'm so happy with it. Whereas if you're racing to the bottom in a commodity market and you're pricing as low as you can, people are going to say, well, 3 stars. I don't know, like Amazon, like what is a normal thing that people say?
Yeah.
Cheap, but So that makes sense to me. All that to say is it makes sense to me that when people invest in a idea that is your business and the product that are your products, they would be very happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been saying that a lot, and like people reach out a lot and say, do you want to trade, or like I'll feature you on my Instagram, and we just realized really quickly that it just doesn't really work that well, because when you get something for free, then it's not as exciting as when you like seek it and choose to invest in it. So yeah, a lot of people are like, why don't you get influencers, and like you could really grow, but it just doesn't really like feel like that's the best route. So
we want that like true, I don't know. It's like a justification when you buy something that is expensive and you get it and you're like, man, this actually, like, I paid for this and like I would pay for it again. When we get those experiences, it just means a lot more than like an influencer, posting a photo. I don't know. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so on that note, I mean, speaking about influencers and Instagram and all of that, what has been some of your marketing strategies or tactics over the past year and a half?
So, I like started our Instagram page way back when, and that's like our main way that we like communicate or show our stuff. And then probably a lot of people find our site through like a blog that's about American made shoes. That's like one of our biggest ways that people find us. We really like need to do more marketing, but we're always like we get right to the cusp where like we're so busy like making the shoes and communicating with people, and it's like just us, and then my aunt works for us a little bit, so really we're kind of at this point where like we need to hire and get someone who's helping us make the shoes, and then we can like really put the a little bit more into our marketing. But right now, if we market, we're probably going to be like too busy to be able to keep up. So we're at like what do you call it? Like
I don't know.
Capacity threshold. There's about to be a tide that changes, but there's a bottleneck in production. You can only sell as many as you can make, and you're making as many as you can sell right now. Honestly, seems like a pretty great place to be. What, at less than 2 years into the thing, like well under 2 years into the thing? It's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like the first time that we're really starting to see, okay, we're onto something and we can make this grow, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's feeling good now.
And how many different product styles are there?
Well, we have two sneakers right now, and then one of them comes in a high top and a low top, and then different colors and material.
The colors.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Cool. One of the things I'm always curious about, mainly because I know that it happens to most of us as business owners, is what mistakes you made that you learned from over the past 2 years. Was there something that you did that you're like, I will never do that again? Or like, that was a great learning opportunity for myself?
We've learned, oh man, like so many bad decisions. I think like making sure that if you're going to purchase something, you know the ins and outs and the implications, and you're protected. That was probably, we had a few hiccups there. To do manufacturing, it's like, it just takes so much money. You've got to start buying your materials are going to be like minimum order quantities. So anywhere, if you're going to buy leather or soles or whatever material, laces, like it's always, you got to have a little bit of money to play with it. So it was like so interesting to just like, our money was just all over the place. The like little bit of money that we didn't even really have. I think that's been the biggest lesson for me, is just making sure that you're protected and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been fascinated by it. The only businesses I've ever dabbled in or played in have been very low by way of capital expenses, right? Like you just kind of hang the shingle and it's
Yeah.
started. No inventory to buy, no cost of goods sold necessarily. Have you done any like additional financing? Do you have like business credit cards? Do you have bank loans? Or is it all still that first initial money?
So we thought like we got the money for the machines and then we were like, okay, but we're going to need a lot more to start the business, like another like 50,000 so that we can hire. We were going to hire immediately since we didn't know how to make shoes. We were going to hire someone to do like our stitching at least. And we were going to be like putting them together, but like neither of us is a professional sewer. So we're like, okay, we're going to get that money for that and money to buy like, our leather and our soles, and we need like a chunk. And so we just thought that would be really easy. And then after like months and months of not being able to get anyone to give us any money, someone was like, if you were like a cupcake shop, we would probably give you a loan, but this is just kind of too out there and, we're just not comfortable.
And by that, someone, you mean like a bank or like a angel
An
investor?
Both,
investor,
yeah. Yeah. Everyone was just like, no, no, no. So that was actually really scary. That was like one of the scariest times because all of that was going on like while our machines were on the way pretty much. And we like were looking for our factory. Also, yeah, we needed to pay factory rent. And like, so we pretty much were like almost at zero. And we needed to do all of those things. But we just like kind of made it work, and we got one business credit card, and so that we used like for leather and soles. Actually, we couldn't use it for soles. I remember like we were gonna place our sole order, and we were all ready, and they like send us the invoice, and they're like, we only accept wire transfer from your bank, and we were like,
no.
They've probably been talk about getting burned on orders. They've probably been burned on credit cards.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So,
but our bank account like didn't exist at the moment.
Yeah, it was like on.
Like, oh, so we need to get it.
So yeah, that was a crazy day where I was like, we had to order the soles that day, and I was trying to like get the money and like, Mom, can we just have like this little chunk until like next week and then we'll pay it right back? But we had to do this wire transfer today. And so anyways, we like somehow got away with like just the one business credit card, and that's been it.
Yeah.
You're in the driver's seat, people. Like this is a dream place to be. That it seems at least that there's been almost no equity given up, maybe except for that early money, and then good like every business story that starts with people were just throwing money at us. Almost none of them end that well, and so like the ones who are like disruptors and build things that are like really exciting and crazy typically are like so off in left field that a traditional investor would be like, sorry people, like that's nuts. Like making shoes in America, it's 2020. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we felt that way for sure. Like the day I had that meeting specifically, and we had, I don't know, the statement of like, if you were a cupcake shop and I could taste, the cupcake, but like you're making shoes and I don't know. So it was like,
it was a sad day.
It was sad, but it was also like an eye opener that, okay, we're so different. Like we're going to have to prove our point a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that like helped in the long run, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So have you not tried to raise money in the last year? Yeah. So I imagine if you went back or went to a new lot of the same amount of people and said like, hey, look, money would just kind of be floating at you at whatever rates you're interested in. I think that it sounds like a really interesting thing. People can see the shoes, put them on, look at the sales, and go, oh, I'm in early. Like I saw it coming, and that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of this phrase, and I don't remember where I heard this last. It might have been another podcast guest. It could have been someone else I was talking to, but it was something to the effect of, if you need money, ask for advice, but if you need advice, ask for money, which I find that so fascinating. It just reminds me of kind of what you guys are doing. Like you figured it out. Like you were resourceful rather than relying on just someone to loan you or
It's a
grant
very
you
truthful statement.
money
Yeah,
to.
it is true.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. So we're humming through holiday 2019 into the early days of 2020. Everything's future is so bright. I need to wear sunglasses is your motto in January. And now
Never heard that one before.
and so all of a sudden comes coronavirus and a global pandemic, and you're like, that's it, we're going bankrupt. Or
I mean, we were already like just so what do we say? Like people were asking us this question. They're like, how are you guys doing? Like, are you gonna be okay? And we're like, we're already not really making any money, so it's not like we're taking a hit of any kind because
It's like normal life.
we're not making anything anyways. But really what started to happen was that we just like every month, like we were getting a few more orders and then a few more and then a few more. And we were just kind of like, I don't know. And like when the stimulus hit, like we got a lot of orders. And so it was just, we were like, okay, maybe it's going to be all right. We were just kind of holding on and just seeing what happened, which is still kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. It like, we have had like this time, and I think like a lot of people through this whole thing have had this time to like, even though things are crazy, like it's almost like in some ways the world paused and we could kind of slow down for a minute and think like, what do we need to do to make this happen, to like actually make this happen? So like it hasn't been, and it wasn't easy like at all. But we had a lot of time to really kind of like think about things.
Yeah.
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 And it seemed like from watching your Instagram stories, back even before then, that you were spending a lot of time in the factory anyway, in like a self quarantine. I'm just working, making shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah, our life was very much like already that. And and like we did the same thing that every manufacturer I think did in the early days, where we like started making some masks, and we share a space with Diamond brand gear in our
beautiful website. I'm not familiar with that business, but the stuff looks amazing.
They just redid their site. They would be really happy to hear that. I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, let them know. In the pre-interview, I was like, let's see Diamond brand gear.
Oh yeah, they've been working really hard, so they'll be really happy to hear that.
Amazing company though too, and so they were making a lot of PPE, and so we helped out with them whenever we could. So it was, I don't know, I think as a business we were like, man, we're already so tight. We just have to figure out now what we do to make sure that we can actually make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about kind of that, like the component of production, logistics, pricing. How did you figure all of that out, or how are you figuring it out right now? Because I imagine it's probably an ongoing thing. Like, how did you decide? Okay, I'm gonna need this amount of soles, or maybe not soles is not the best example, but pricing it all out and figuring out all those components.
Yeah, I mean,
first of all, like I think our business model, when we first started, our business model was very much like direct to consumer, picking up no wholesale accounts. Like you can just get it through our website. And then that changed a little bit, and we were like, man, there are some other brands and some other stores that it would be amazing to like be inside some very selective retail spaces. So then we changed the business model to, okay, we need to have some sort of wholesale account pricing. And so I think it literally took like, I don't know, you can probably speak to it better than me, but it was like, let's make this shoe and then let's break it down. Like, how much did this shoe cost us? And we also need to build in like all of these other aspects to cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overhead and your time
Yeah.
and
Rent.
So it's been like,
Cr-
I don't know, very hands-on pricing,
Yeah.
but something that's on our mind every single day.
Yeah.
And how many wholesale accounts are you in now? Because I tend to agree. My assumption is that drafting off the quality brand of like the best shop in Kansas City and the best shop in San Francisco and the best shop, like whatever the city might be, probably makes some sense to have a physical marketing by way of your shoes just being in somebody else's space. Space is a weird thing in 2020, but how many locations are we looking at today?
We're just in one right now. Well, he just opened a second, so I guess technically two, but it's in Laguna Beach. And that was our plan. Like in January, we were like, we're going to hit wholesale really hard because we figured out our pricing. We figured out how to make it work. And then that's when, coronavirus came. So we were like, we're never going to get any wholesalers. But we got this one, and we really love his shop and what he's doing. And it's been a great relationship. And so, we're not pushing that super hard right now, but we definitely, it's on our mind. Like we want to be in a few places, across the country. And so we're working towards that.
Out of curiosity, what is it called?
It's North Menswear.
North. Very cool. Yeah, the old version of me that really paid attention to menswear. There were a couple California places that I wouldn't know them until you said it out loud, and I'd be like, oh yeah. I don't know. If
I think he's kind of new.
Yeah, just very new. But it's a really cool space, and I think I'm excited about that because we can be really selective about where we want our products to be, and I think I don't know. There are a lot of stores that are starting to sell these products that are really well made in the U.S. And so I think it's an interesting place to be for sure.
Yeah. And I think an interesting time because I am getting the sensation that there's this trend of younger people caring more about what they buy and wanting to be more intentional about it and finding American-made brands that are building things with sustainable materials. Yeah, I'm losing my words. Whew. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting place to be for you guys.
Yeah, we hope so.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was in the menswear space, it was probably the beginning or the height of this made in America, Americana workwear vibe, but it was almost all apparel. It was almost all shirts and jeans and jackets and shirts and jeans and jackets. And then, the boot manufacturers were just so into it because, yay, more people are wearing jeans and 16-ounce denim. Awesome. But I can't is there competition in the American sneaker space? Or is it more of a community of a handful? Because I can't even I can think of American brands and relatively upstart sneaker brands, but I don't know. I just imagine that they're not making them in America, or I know about it. Most people kind of hit you over the head with that as a value prop.
There's some New Balance makes a few, and Fry makes a few, but that we know of, there's not. Well, Standard Fare. Yeah,
there are a few. There are definitely a few very small places, that are maybe a little bigger than us, but it just for sneakers, it doesn't. It's just not really a thing right now. It's you can find boots all day.
Yeah, and there's an Italian expensive sneaker thing, and that's you everywhere, right? I can think of every brand. Oh, we use this one town in Italy, and I'm I know enough about Italian manufacturing that just because it's in Italy doesn't mean that it's Italian manufacturing. That the connotation, denotation, it's close, but it's definitely not the same. It's not like a little old man making it by hand. Is most of the Italian shoe production is not
the well-known ones,
not
anyways.
cute,
Yeah,
little old men making one at a time.
Yeah, the Italian.
yeah. Where is?
Oh,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, Italian shoes are like, that's definitely like the hub of really nice sneakers. That's, I think really that's where the classic modern sneaker originated. Unfortunately, that gets this claim of made in Italy is this amazing thing. A lot of times it can be just like finished in Italy and
designed in Italy.
Yeah, but definitely like the place that maybe was the birthplace of really nice handmade sneakers. So I don't ever take anything away from that. It just is what it is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to in my
no.
very say lax. Okay, cool. But I just recently, almost as though Google knew that we were going to have this conversation, it suggested that I watch some YouTube channel slice sneakers.
Oh yeah.
Like slicing luxury sneakers in half and like assessing the quality of the construction and saying that some of it's not as good as what you're paying for. And so I'm wondering, what things have you learned over the last 2 years that make a that maybe shoe buyers should be aware of? Like, are there keywords? Like, I've heard like a Goodyear welt on a boot means generally a good thing. You can remove the sole, and so you'll have a longer life. Like, what other keywords or concepts might be important in sneakers?
Like, material selection is maybe one of the biggest things, I think, for me. You can, on the spectrum of like buying leather, there are some leathers that are super cheap and they're that cheap for a reason. And then there are leathers that are expensive, and like they're expensive because the process makes it expensive. So like knowing material, which an everyday consumer might not know that, like that's a big thing to look for.
Yeah, like we always tell like what tannery the leather is from and what type of leather it is. Like we only use vegetable tan leather as of now. And we get our leather from 2 tanneries in the US. So all tanned here, it's not tanned with chemicals and formaldehyde, and so that's really important. It makes a difference because like your foot is touching it. So once I learned about leather, anything I had that was leather, I'm looking at like, oh no, like was it tanned with all these chemicals? And it's just like different, things that you learn through life. But that's important to us, like for the quality and like sustainability and like your health. And so
I'm going to throw a buzzword out that Horween leather is the only one I'm familiar with. Is that by chance?
That's
produced?
like
That's one of them.
half of our shoes are made with Horween. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that people from my world 10 years ago, if you saw Horween, you knew that was a good shoe or a good wallet or a good belt. That was good leather. So I'm glad that I wasn't lying.
No, you weren't. No, Horween is great. They're the one that's been around the longest, probably in the U.S.
Yeah,
Still around.
And then Wicket and Craig is our other tannery that we use that's also U.S. based.
Yeah.
But some of the best leather, you can buy in general. So I would say material, like to answer your question, material is definitely something that I look for if I'm trying to figure out why something is priced the way it is.
And like recraft, like you can easily resole our shoes. So like if you wear through the sole, it's really easy to pop the stitches and take the sole off and put a new one on. So just like a longer life and a more sustainable shoe. So people usually ask us, are your sneakers recraftable or resoleable? And so, yeah.
Interesting. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier about how boots can be kind of resold, but I think about getting my boots like fixed up, but I never think about getting my sneakers fixed up.
Done.
I don't know. Just usually throw them away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. So you are one of the handful of couples, husband and wife teams that we've interviewed before. And we're always interested to know about what it's like working together because obviously Tony and I are husband and wife and we work together. What is that like? I mean, tell us more about how you guys manage that dynamic.
We had never done it before. Even though we had been together for so long, like since we were teenagers, it definitely was like something that we had to learn though. Like some of those early days in the factory, so much like frustration and unknowing, like, did we make the right decision? Those moments were really difficult. But then also like the moments when we would do things together and like take a step forward, or, you know, we went to the market together and we sold those shoes, and like we're able to say, like, I remember, you know, having dinner that night and thinking like, okay, we might be okay. So it's just like, I don't know. To answer your question, I think like separation of working together and like doing life together is necessary. Like coming home and saying, we don't talk about shoes. We're going to watch The Wire. Like,
Now, is that true? Are you able to leave the shoes at the factory?
Sometimes.
80%, 20%?
I mean, no, it's more like, I feel like 10% because we want to talk about it. Like, and anytime we're together, like we're usually like I'm thinking about it. And so then like, even if we're like, let's not talk about shoes, let's just make dinner. I'll be like, what if we did this with this? Or have you ever looked at this other? It's just so much fun that it's hard not to talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, they leave work at work. So we just got an office in downtown, and so it has wildly changed our life. But to even joke to someone and say that we leave work at the office, I would just say that we're not like, it's a gift that we don't. I mean, we have this whole little like studio hidden now behind the camera. To not see this in our tiny apartment would have been 80% of the time that we're in our apartment, we would see this. And I think that that's just a whole next level of conversation about the business, or, gravitational pull back into the business that I'm thankful that we've, what would be jettisoned
Yeah.
away. Like,
but I mean, but we're on the same thing. We still, we will, want to say like, oh yeah, we're not going to talk about work. And then we'll go home and we'll be like, but the same thing, like, what if we did this? And like that idea starts spinning, and like, it's enjoyable. And it's been a part of, I think, our relationship. So it's important to us as well. So all that to say is I think a lot of couples that work together are probably the same way in many ways. Do you guys, how do you guys split up your roles in terms of who does what for the company and for life, I guess, in general?
Well, Justin like makes all the shoes. So I don't do a lot of making anymore. I like to, but there was just so many other things that needed to be done, like sourcing and customer care and marketing. And so, really, I just like gradually kind of like stepped into that. And then that works because I can be home with our kids, like while I'm doing all of those things. And so in the beginning, when we were learning how to make them, I was like going to the factory almost every day. And so we were paying for childcare like a lot. And then I was just away from the kids a lot. And that was all great and fun. And I miss it sometimes, but it's been good, like to be able to be home and like take care of all that. So I'm really like the internet side and like communicating with all of our suppliers, and he's just making shoes.
And
Justin's just headphones in, listening to Making It in Asheville all day, every day. Is that what?
I have actually been on a binger, but yeah, I'm like living at the factory when I'm not at home. But it's all, I don't know, it's really good. We're like doing something that I wanted to do. Like, if you'd have told me in middle school you're gonna not just design shoes, you're gonna have your own shoe company, like that sounds amazing. So Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You made it happen.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how many shoes can you make in a day?
Oh, I think that depends. Like shoes are, the process of making a shoe is so long. It's like you can't make a shoe in a day, really. You can, you have to
Okay.
kind of make shoes in batches because
That makes sense.
you're going to construct the upper and then you're going to have to get that like pressed on top of a sole and glued, and it's got to sit for 24 hours. And so the process is so long. I think, you know, we're, our capability is probably, if we were to go in next week and like 50 shoes in a week, it's probably like our max with our setup.
Sounds like a lot of shoes to me.
It's okay. We need to make a lot more though.
Yeah. Is it just you, or do you have someone there helping you now
we
to
do.
make
We
shoes
have
too?
one person helping us with shoes, so we've like kind of divided the roles a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's really just us three.
Wow.
I'm gonna clap real quick, just because I forgot to clap before. And so, in the production of the shoes, one of the things that I was thinking about earlier is, I guess, inspiration for the shoes, right? So that your sneakers to me have a very classic appeal, and so I have assumptions about it. But I would love to know what inspiration or what has inspired or informed your designs so far. And I'll stop there.
Yeah.
What has inspired your designs?
There are certain shoes that I have picked up on in my life that are super meaningful to me. And the one thing that I find in all of them is like they're all a very classic silhouette. So like a Converse, like a Chuck Taylor, it's amazing how long that thing has been around and you still find people wearing it down the street. Like it's an incredible design. Like Vans have some incredible, you know, Vans and Sperry's and CV's, like all of those guys have these classic shoes that just stay around forever because you can, I don't know, you can change them in so many ways. And then even like we have a basketball sneaker that's coming out and it's modeled after like very classic basketball shoes. So the word classic, it's funny that you said that because it's like very much what I'm drawn towards. And I would say like that's probably where we'll stick for a little while. Like I want to reinvent and make some classic shoes that have nods, you know, to shoes that I've loved my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there shoe designers? So I've been wanting to mention a show, and I can't think of the name of it, but maybe Abstract. It's a Netflix documentary. It's like Chef's Table, but for design.
Yeah.
And so have you seen the one, I want to say his name's Tinker, the Nike designer?
Tinker was like my hero growing up. Tinker Hatfield.
Tinker Hatfield.
Yeah, he's very famous for like Nike Air Max at first, and then went on to the Jordan line. So when I was growing up, like that dude, he was like living the dream. That was my hero.
Cool. And I imagine then you've seen that little documentary episode on Tinker.
Yeah, it's really yeah. So it like shows him driving around in his van. I think a little bit is the same one that you're talking about on that.
I think so, yeah. And it was like maybe partially the design of the human real version of the Back to the Future.
Yeah, the Nike Air Mag. Yeah. Yeah.
Self-strapping like crazy.
Yeah.
Sneaker from
Like working on that for Nike right now. That's specifically what they're working on, like shoes that lace themselves and like bringing that technology into shoes for real, I think is what Tinker is working on right now. It's cool.
Wait, what? Shoes that lace themselves?
Yeah, like have you ever seen Back to the
How does
Future?
that
Like
work?
the Nike shoes he's wearing, you press like a little button and they compress to your foot. There's no laces. So I think they've released like 2 basketball shoes that kind of do that already. They're very expensive and like kind of chunky though. but it's really,
his his idea is like when someone's shooting free throws, it would like loosen
yeah.
it, and then like as stuff gets more real, and it'll like tighten up because it knows that you're defending someone, which is so so futuristic and nonsensical to me that it's crazy to talk about. But
like,
just I imagine that's I effectively all I do in every conversation is attempt to throw a thing out that I've seen at one point and ask if does this mean anything to you, and then see if it does. So
Yeah, he was like a lot of kids looked up to Jordan's because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I did that a little bit, but I was really like the story of Tinker designing the shoe was maybe more important than Michael Jordan actually to me.
Crazy. And like how did you hear about that in the 90s? Like because I just knew the shoes. Like it never once that I'm aware of crossed my screen or a magazine on like the designer of the shoe.
Yeah, I think I don't know, like the first time that I realized that Tinker like existed was there was a magazine called Slam magazine. Familiar with that? It was like a basketball magazine, but right in the middle of it, they would have like 4 pages that it was like a shoe category. Like here are the shoes that are coming out. Here's what some of the athletes are wearing. And there was an article about Tinker. He created the Air Jordan 11. And that was probably like one of his most famous silhouettes in like 1996. And I remember reading that article about this guy. He was this older guy and he had this really cool hat on. And I don't know, that's where my like fascination with his life became, I think.
Cool. There you go.
cool. All right. So, what about the future for Opie Way? What are you guys dreaming of or hoping to do over the next few months?
So many
years?
things. We have we're working on a really cool project with another brand, a denim company, and we're going to do like a collaboration that's been coming for like over a year. So I'm really excited about that one. And then I don't know, we're at a point where we have to kind of pivot and hit the ground running.
I want to make sandals, so that's on my list. And like we want to make kids shoes at some point since we have kids.
Yeah, your company's named after your kids.
Yeah, so like when our kids need shoes, I'm like, I just feel so weird to buy shoes for our kids when like I know we could make them. It's just a long process to get like the last, which is the form and all the kids' sizes and like source the soles and make the patterns. So we want to do that at some point. And I mean, we want to like grow a little bit, and we're looking for an apprentice right now, like someone who wants to learn how to make shoes so that we can have a little bit of help and like teach someone. So we're like doing a few interviews for that, so we're excited to bring someone else in. And we have lots of dreams.
We just want to be here to stay. I think that's the biggest thing.
Love that. Awesome. And congratulations, and we're excited for you. And on our 2020 roadmap is probably Christmas present, Opie Way sneakers to each other. So look out for us in November.
matching husband and wife.
Make sure you're very clear on when the last day to put an order.
We will. We'll be super specific about that.
Good. And now for our often feared but in the end loved speed round of questions.
Okay.
They are not fast and they should not be funny.
Okay.
But in not including Opie Way products, have there been like single sneakers or shoes that like leading up into the business were the things that you thought of when you thought of your favorite shoes?
Yeah. Nike Blazer 77. Vans has a line that's called Vans Vault, and they're made on like these old school lasts from the 60s and 70s. I don't know what else. Yeah, like we love really cool boots. And the very first Air Jordan model I have always loved, even though it doesn't like match our product right now, but it's definitely inspiration. I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, and my question, which is kind of similar, but I was wondering if there was just one pair of shoes that you had to wear for the rest of your life, what pair of shoes would those be for both of you?
Oh, wow.
I would
You could be house brand.
pick moccasins for sure, which we can
Yeah.
make moccasins. So
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Asking me to choose one shoe, that's not like it's like a loaded question for me. We're going to release a basketball shoe. I've been wearing it every single day for like some time now. I even told Amanda like this morning, I love this shoe. So I'd probably pick this one.
Cool.
Great pick.
Cool.
Do you remember, has there been a time where you're out and you're like, oh my God, I think those are our shoes?
no, not yet.
Not yet.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that moment for you. I guessed, and I was right. John Jones from Anthrowear. We had coffee. So pre-pandemic, we got drinks one night and like got acquainted. And I was like, this is a long shot, but are those Opie Way? Like, and he's like, yeah, you know Opie Way? And I was like, only from DMs. We're trying to get him on the podcast.
That's awesome.
Hilarious.
John is the
So I can't wait for you guys to experience like a sighting in real life.
Yeah.
I know. I'm ready for that day too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Okay. So lately, has there been, or is there a inspiring book, podcast, or movie that you watched that really sticks out to you?
Ooh, that's inspiring. I, oh man, I guess I listen to Shoe Dog, which is, a lot of people know that, like the founder of Nike. His book, there's so many, even though it's so different, there's a lot of parallels, and it was like a big eye opener for me. I thought it was cool.
Is it a book or a podcast?
Shoe Dog is a book.
A
but you
book.
listen to it
Yeah, it was.
Audiobook.
I just listened to it while I was working for like a full week,
Perfect.
go through the whole thing. But it's a book by Phil Knight, who was the founder of Nike. I don't know what else. I listen to music a lot. That's like super inspiring to me a lot of times. And then I have a friend who owns a denim company, Raleigh Denim. The owner, his name is Victor. I've listened to his story probably like 200 times.
He's your friend. Raleigh Denim is a huge deal.
Yeah, it's just like, and such cool people.
Wow.
It's yeah, they're really cool people, and so I've like listened to his story quite a bit because I think it's an awesome story and it's inspiring me because there's so many parallels.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Amanda?
Don't ask me that question. I feel like
Sarah's late night reading has been like Crazy Rich Asians and a bunch of like it doesn't need to be inspiring. If there's any bit of media that you've loved recently,
I just reread Jane Eyre, which is like so nerdy, but that's like one of my favorite books of all time. And I hadn't read it in a really long time, and I still think it's like maybe my favorite book. And that's the last thing I read. It was like last week.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I'm working
I
my
love
way
that.
through Harry Potter right now.
I want to read that again. I'm like, should I wait for our kids to be old enough where like I can read it to them, or I think I might need to read it myself one more time because.
Yeah, I think blow through it real quick and then do it again with the kids eventually. I'm loving it.
He's never read the books. He's only seen the movie. So I was telling him, I'm like, you have to read the books. Like this, it was my childhood, doing this. So
I haven't.
Yeah.
Even better.
I need to watch them. I think I need to read them again, then watch the movies, and then.
Oh, I can't wait to watch the movies again with all this extra context.
I know.
I was watching it before. I loved it, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. I mean, it's been so long since I've seen the movies, but like I'm like, Sarah, is Severus a good guy? Like I'm like, I think he's a good guy.
So much.
Anyway, So fun.
Okay,
Cool.
so the final question.
Yeah, last
Tone.
question is, if we had, or our audience had a magic wand, do you have a single wish date stamped today during this conversation? It doesn't need to be save the world, but what would you ask for if we had a magic wand?
Oh man, just in general, like doesn't have to be about the business. Oh,
It can be a sandwich.
that's a good one. I think like
Just phase.
That's hard.
obviously this year is like crazy for everybody. I think I don't know, like I'm trying to be super positive about what the next year could bring, or like just the future indefinitely could bring from like all the changes. So I think I would wish that everybody could like latch on to the year together, and I don't know, I think we could have some really positive things that could happen next year. That'd be my wish. Like
Positivity.
yeah, positivity and like good things coming for everybody.
Yeah.
That seems like a lame. I don't know. What's yours?
No, me too.
No.
I mean, such a dork. I just, I really want like a little bit of land, and we want to build like a small house and have some horses. And that's like all I can really think about lately.
Perfect. That's a great answer.
That's if someone could wave a wand and give me that, oh my gosh.
You gotta.
Amazing.
I
love that.
Can't yet, but we do have a friend that has horses, Liminal Equus, so we can connect you guys in DM. She does great stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Sarah?
So final question is, if someone wants to connect with you guys, where can they find you on the internet? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, we have a website, opieway.com. And then Instagram, we're pretty heavy on that. It's just at Opie Way.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the two places.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we'll have links to all of those in our show notes page as well. Amanda and Justin, thank you so much for joining us. It was awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having us. It's awesome to talk.
It's been great.
Whew. Okay, so
that was an episode. We did it. People.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
Good. That went by really fast.
Yeah, did you about that?
Time flies. Time absolutely flies. So is there anything, as you were like meant, I always like to say, so you're in the shower, you're thinking about tonight, you're going to be in a podcast, here are my talking points. Was there anything that we missed you really wanted to say? We could attempt to find space for it.
We didn't like really have an agenda. We were just excited to be a part of it. I think we hit it all.
Cool. Awesome. You guys, I mean, I'm so into it. I think that the fact that you tried to fundraise and people said no, just to me tells me that you were on to something. Like, if it's such an obvious yes, I would like, it's more concerning to me. I'm so pumped, and your stuff looks awesome.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
You guys are doing incredible things too as a team together. Like, I don't know, it's amazing what you guys are doing. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, it's one day at a time.
This was great.
It's been really awesome. Thank you guys so much.